Hidden beneath the vast canopy is a lost world of the ancient Maya. Lasers in the sky are helping to expose these secrets.
Kind of like having X-ray vision and seeing beneath the canopy without having to touch a single leaf.
The lost world of ancient Maya. Scientists just discovered that the Maya collapse wasn't caused by war or disease. It was caused by something that's happening to us right now. Revolutionary scanning technology is revealing the Maya as master engineers who built impossible cities, controlled water like magic, and created underground temples where they desperately tried to save their dying world through blood rituals. These weren't primitive people. They were more advanced than Europeans would be for another 500 years. The shocking story of how climate change destroyed this super civilization contains warnings that could determine whether our modern world survives or joins the Maya in history's graveyard of lost empires. The jungle keeps its secrets. Imagine walking directly over ancient pyramids and never knowing they exist. For over a century, archaeologists trudged through Guatemala's dense jungle.
We're looking for the tombs because we regarded them as time capsules.
The forest canopy is so thick that massive stone pyramids become invisible just 50 feet away. And assuming they represented small settlements of primitive farmers ruled by a few elite priests. The Maya seemed like a minor civilization compared to Egypt or Rome. Textbooks describe scattered city-states with populations in the thousands, not millions. Archaeological surveys suggested maybe 500,000 Maya lived across all of Central America at the civilization's peak. Every assumption was catastrophically wrong. In 2018, scientists flew aircraft equipped with revolutionary LiDAR technology over 800 square miles of Guatemalan rainforest. LiDAR works like Superman's X-ray vision, firing billions of laser pulses through the jungle canopy to map the ground below.
LiDAR uses aircraft equipped with lasers to scan the jungle.
When computers processed the data and stripped away the digital trees, researchers couldn't believe what appeared on their screens. The jungle had been hiding the largest civilization in the ancient Americas. Not thousands of Maya structures, but over 60,000 buildings. Not scattered villages, but sprawling metropolis. Cities that shame modern engineers. How do you build highways and skyscrapers without metal tools, wheels, or pack animals? The LiDAR reveals transformed the Maya from primitive farmers into master engineers. At El Mirador, pyramid complexes rise 230 feet above the jungle floor, taller than most modern skyscrapers, and containing more stone than Egypt's Great Pyramid. These monuments required moving over 2 million tons of limestone blocks, each carved and positioned with mathematical precision that modern construction crews struggle to match. But the pyramids were just the beginning. The scans revealed sophisticated urban planning that would impress contemporary city designers. Raised causeways stretch for dozens of miles, connecting major cities in a transportation network more advanced than many modern countries possess. These weren't simple dirt paths. They were engineered highways up to 150 feet wide, elevated above swampland and built to withstand centuries of tropical storms. The Maya solved problems that stumped today's engineers. In swampy lowlands prone to flooding, they constructed entire cities on raised platforms with complex drainage systems. In areas with no stone, they perfected concrete thousands of years before Rome. They built bridges that spanned rivers, aqueducts that carried water across valleys, and defensive walls that stretched for hundreds of miles. At Tikal, LiDAR revealed a defensive barrier that archaeologists had been walking past for decades without recognizing. The Great Wall of Tikal runs over 15 miles through dense jungle, in some places rising 30 feet high, with deep moats carved in front. The engineering required to build this fortification rivals China's Great Wall, yet it remained completely invisible until laser technology exposed its true scale. The Maya built the most sophisticated infrastructure in the ancient Americas, using nothing but human labor, stone tools, and engineering genius that modern scientists are still struggling to understand. The water wizards. What happens when 20 million people need water in a land with no rivers? The Maya homeland presents one of Earth's most challenging environments for sustaining large populations.
And it's a tropical forest. It's not a rainforest because it has a dry season. And it surprises people with all of the rain they have per year. In the Maya world, you can have anywhere from 3 to 6 months without rain.
The Yucatan Peninsula has no surface water, no rivers, lakes, or streams. Rain falls heavily for only 6 months each year, then stops completely during brutal dry seasons that can last 8 months. Yet somehow, the Maya supported population densities higher than most modern cities. The secret lay in engineering so advanced that it seems almost magical. The Maya became masters of water management, developing technologies that wouldn't be matched in Europe for another 1,000 years.
Ever since ancient times, the Mayans had developed a whole technique that you could call hydraulic engineering. They designed their cities in such a way that the squares became open-air catchment areas that could direct water to the reservoirs.
They carved elaborate underground cisterns called choltens directly into limestone bedrock, waterproofing them with specialized stucco that prevented contamination and evaporation. But individual cisterns weren't enough for major cities. The Maya engineered entire urban landscapes as giant water collection systems. At sites like El Mirador, every plaza, rooftop, and walkway was designed with specific slopes to channel rainwater into massive underground reservoirs. Some cities contained hundreds of interconnected choltens that could store millions of gallons, enough to sustain thousands of people through the longest droughts. The engineering extended beyond storage to distribution. The Maya built pressurized water systems using gravity-fed pipes made from carved stone. They constructed elaborate filtration systems using sand and gravel to purify drinking water. At Palenque, archaeologists discovered underground aqueducts with sophisticated valve systems that controlled water flow throughout the city. The technology was so advanced that Spanish conquistadors couldn't understand how Maya cities functioned. When Europeans arrived, they found massive urban centers thriving in regions where they couldn't even find drinking water for their horses. The Maya solved water engineering challenges that modern cities with advanced technology still struggle with, creating sustainable urban environments in one of the world's most challenging climates. The underworld architects. Why would a civilization obsessed with building toward the sky suddenly turn to constructing underground? As LiDAR technology revealed the scale of Maya surface cities, archaeologists began discovering something equally astonishing hidden beneath the ground. The Maya didn't just build up, they built down, creating some of the most sophisticated underground architecture in human history. In caves across Central America, researchers found evidence of massive construction projects that transformed natural caverns into elaborate religious complexes. These weren't simple cave paintings or scattered artifacts. The Maya moved thousands of tons of stone to build platforms, staircases, walls, and amphitheater seating inside underground chambers. At Las Cuevas in Belize, 3D laser scanning revealed an underground complex that rivals surface temples in complexity. The Maya constructed stone platforms arranged like stadium seating around a sacred water source called the cenote. The engineering required moving massive limestone blocks through narrow cave passages, then precisely positioning them in complete darkness using only torchlight.
Here we have a restricted passageway. There was a wall here, marking an entrance that separated two areas, a public space and a sacred space.
The Maya believed caves were portals to Xibalba, the underground realm where gods controlled rain, fertility, and the cycles of life and death. By building elaborate temples inside caves, Maya priests created sacred spaces where rulers could communicate directly with deities. The engineering challenges were immense. Underground construction required solving problems of ventilation, lighting, and structural support that surface builders never faced. The Maya developed techniques for preventing cave-ins, managing underground water flow, and creating acoustic spaces where thousands of people could gather for religious ceremonies.
Here's an intentional deposit of ceramics where the Maya broke vessels as part of an offering.
Archaeological evidence suggests these underground temples drew pilgrims from across the Maya world. Pottery fragments found in caves show artistic styles from regions hundreds of miles apart, indicating that people traveled vast distances to participate in underworld rituals. The Maya created a parallel underground civilization as sophisticated as their surface cities, proving their engineering mastery extended into realms no other ancient culture dared to explore. The blood gods demand payment. What drives an advanced civilization to perform increasingly extreme rituals involving human blood? Deep inside Maya caves, archaeologists discovered evidence of religious practices so intense they seem almost unbelievable.
Diego de Landa, later when he was back in Spain again, he wrote down, "We found thousands of handwritings of the Indios, but they all contained just devil's things."
The Maya developed elaborate bloodletting ceremonies where rulers and priests used razor-sharp obsidian blades to pierce their tongues, ears, and genitals, offering their blood to rain gods and underworld deities. These weren't occasional rituals performed by a few religious fanatics. Bloodletting became central to Maya statecraft and religious practice. Kings were expected to demonstrate their divine connection by publicly mutilating themselves during major festivals. The blood was collected on bark paper, then burned so the smoke could carry offerings to the gods. Archaeological evidence shows the intensity of these practices increased dramatically over time. In early Maya sites, bloodletting tools are rare and simple. By the classical period, elaborate ceremonial knives become common, many carved with religious imagery and inlaid with precious stones. The Maya developed specialized instruments for different types of blood sacrifice, from small obsidian to extreme mutilation. The religious reasoning behind bloodletting connected to Maya beliefs about the relationship between human sacrifice and cosmic order. The Maya creation myth described how gods had sacrificed their own blood to create humanity, so humans owed a blood debt that could only be repaid through ritual offerings. Kings who failed to provide adequate blood sacrifice risked losing divine support and facing rebellion from their subjects. Spanish conquistadors were horrified by the scale of bloodletting they witnessed. They described Maya rulers who had mutilated themselves so extensively that their bodies were covered in ritual scars. Religious festivals involved hundreds of participants simultaneously drawing blood, creating scenes that traumatized even hardened Spanish soldiers accustomed to medieval warfare. The Maya transformed self-mutilation into high art, developing bloodletting practices so extreme they shocked European conquerors who had witnessed the Spanish Inquisition. The climate apocalypse begins. What could force the world's most advanced water engineers to abandon their magnificent cities? Around 700 AD, something began to go terribly wrong in the Maya world. Climate scientists analyzing ancient lake sediments, ice cores, and tree rings discovered that the Maya faced one of the worst environmental disasters in human history, a mega drought that lasted for over a century. The drought didn't arrive suddenly. Instead, it crept across Maya territory like a slow-motion apocalypse. Each year, the rain came a little later. Each dry season lasted a little longer. The sophisticated water storage systems that had sustained millions of people for centuries began running empty. Modern climate models reveal the scope of this disaster. Rainfall dropped by 60% across much of Maya territory. Some regions experienced drought conditions for over 200 years. Lake levels fell so dramatically that entire water sources disappeared completely. The Maya engineering marvels that had conquered water scarcity became useless against a drought of unprecedented scale. The environmental catastrophe triggered a cascade of social disasters. Crop failures led to famine. Competition for remaining water sources sparked warfare between Maya city-states that had coexisted peacefully for centuries. Archaeological evidence shows increasing militarization during this period, with defensive walls being hastily constructed around previously open cities. Population began declining as people fled dying cities in search of water. Magnificent urban centers that had housed hundreds of thousands of residents were gradually abandoned. The elaborate trade networks that connected Maya cities across Central America began collapsing as regions turned inward to focus on survival. Carbon dating of Maya sites reveals the timeline of abandonment. Major cities like El Mirador and Calakmul saw dramatic population drops starting around 750 AD. By 850 AD, most of the great Maya metropolises were ghost towns, their pyramids and palaces slowly being reclaimed by jungle growth. The same climate mastery that had built Maya civilization became its weakness when faced with drought conditions that overwhelmed even their advanced water technology. Desperate prayers in the darkness. As their world collapsed, how far would the Maya go to appease angry gods? As drought devastated Maya cities, people turned to increasingly desperate religious measures. The underground temples that had once hosted occasional ceremonies became sites of constant ritual activity. Archaeologists found evidence that entire populations were making pilgrimages to cave sites, traveling hundreds of miles to participate in underworld rituals designed to summon rain. The scale of religious activity during the drought period is staggering. Caves that had accumulated modest amounts of ceremonial pottery over centuries suddenly filled with thousands of broken vessels. The Maya brought elaborate offerings of jade, obsidian, and precious textiles deep underground, depositing them in sacred pools where they believed underground gods would receive them. But material offerings were at Actun Tunachil Muknal in Belize. Archaeologists found skeletons of 14 sacrifice victims, their bones fused to cave floors by mineral deposits. The positioning of the remains suggests violent deaths, with victims thrown or placed in sacred water pools as offerings to Chak, the Maya rain god. Most shocking of all, over half the sacrificial victims were children. Maya religious beliefs held that innocent children made the most powerful offerings to rain gods. Archaeological analysis reveals victims as young as infants, deliberately killed and placed in underground water sources, where their deaths would supposedly convince gods to restore rainfall. The psychological impact of these extreme measures on Maya society must have been devastating. Communities were literally sacrificing their future, their children, in desperate attempts to restore the environmental conditions that had sustained their civilization. The Maya's final prayers to their gods required the ultimate sacrifice, killing their own children in underground chambers where their blood would mix with sacred waters. The royal tombs reveal their secrets. What treasures did Maya kings take to their graves? And what did they reveal about a dying empire? Even as Maya civilization collapsed around them, royal elites continued to be buried with incredible wealth that demonstrates both the persistence of Maya artistic traditions and the growing desperation of their final rulers. Recent archaeological discoveries in royal tombs are providing unprecedented insights into how Maya kings lived and died during their civilization's darkest hours. At Jolmul in Guatemala, archaeologist Francisco Estrada Belli discovered the intact body of a Maya queen dating to the height of the drought period. The tomb contained elaborately painted ceramic vessels depicting scenes from Maya mythology, jade jewelry carved with religious inscriptions, and obsidian bloodletting tools that showed signs of extensive use. The queen had been buried with enough precious grave goods to finance a small army, yet her city was already in decline. Even more revealing are the chocolate drinking vessels found in royal tombs. The Maya considered chocolate a divine drink, consumed by gods and kings during religious ceremonies. Analysis of residue in burial vessels confirmed they contained chocolate mixed with blood from royal bloodletting rituals. Kings were literally drinking their own blood mixed with sacred cacao as they tried to maintain divine connections during the civilization's collapse. The craftsmanship of items found in late-period royal tombs is extraordinary. suggesting Maya artistic traditions remained vibrant even as their society disintegrated. Painted vessels display technical mastery that rivals any ancient civilization, with complex iconographic programs that tell detailed stories about Maya mythology, history, and religious beliefs. But the tombs also reveal growing militarization during the collapse period. Kings were increasingly buried with weapons and warrior regalia rather than purely ceremonial items. Defensive armor, spear points, and shields appear more frequently in royal burials, indicating that Maya rulers spent their final years as war chiefs rather than priest kings. Some royal tombs show evidence of hasty burials, suggesting kings died suddenly during warfare or social upheaval. Incomplete grave goods and simplified burial procedures contrast sharply with the elaborate royal funerals of earlier periods, when Maya kings were interred in tombs that required years of preparation. The treasure-filled tombs of Maya kings reveal rulers who maintained incredible wealth and artistic sophistication, even as they fought desperate wars and performed blood rituals to save their dying civilization. The feathered serpent cult divides the empire. Did religious civil war accelerate the Maya collapse when unity was most needed? As environmental disaster ravaged Maya territory, a new religious movement began spreading across the region that would further destabilize the collapsing civilization. The cult of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god, emerged from central Mexico and rapidly gained followers among Maya cities desperate for divine intervention to end the drought. The feathered serpent cult represented a radical departure from traditional Maya religious practices. Instead of the complex pantheon of local gods that had sustained Maya communities for centuries, this new ideology promoted worship of a single supreme deity who promised salvation to faithful followers. The cult's appeal during the drought period is obvious. People whose traditional gods had seemingly abandoned them were eager to try new spiritual approaches. But adopting feathered serpent worship required dramatic changes to Maya religious and political systems. Traditional Maya kings claimed divine authority through bloodline connections to local gods. The new cult demanded that rulers undergo painful initiation rituals involving extreme bloodletting and spiritual transformation. Kings who embraced the feathered serpent ideology had to prove their devotion through increasingly extreme self-mutilation ceremonies. Archaeological evidence shows the spread of feathered serpent imagery across Maya territory during the 8th and 9th centuries AD. Temples and palaces that had displayed traditional Maya religious art for centuries were modified to include feathered serpent motifs. New construction projects incorporated architectural elements associated with the cult, including specialized platforms for initiation ceremonies. The religious transformation created political chaos precisely when Maya civilization needed unity to survive the environmental crisis. Cities divided between traditional religious factions and feathered serpent converts, royal families split apart as different members chose opposing spiritual paths. Intercity warfare increased as religiously motivated conflicts added to competition for scarce water resources. Some Maya cities attempted to hedge their bets by incorporating both traditional and feathered serpent religious elements, but this compromise satisfied neither faction. Archaeological evidence suggests that religious civil war became as destructive as environmental disaster in accelerating Maya civilization's final collapse. The feathered serpent cult promised salvation, but delivered religious civil war that shattered Maya unity when they needed it most to survive climate catastrophe. The archaeological detectives. How are modern scientists using space-age technology to solve thousand-year-old mysteries? The revolution in Maya archaeology extends far beyond LiDAR scanning to include an arsenal of high-tech detective tools that are revealing secrets the Maya never intended to preserve. Ground-penetrating radar can identify buried structures without excavation. Chemical analysis of ancient pottery reveals what Maya people ate, drank, and traded. DNA testing of human remains provides insights into family relationships, migration patterns, and population genetics. At underground cave sites across the Yucatan, technical divers equipped with underwater cameras and 3D scanning equipment providing unprecedented insights into Maya daily life. Satellite imagery is revolutionizing the search for new Maya sites. Algorithms trained to recognize archaeological features can process satellite data faster than human analysts, identifying potential Maya ruins across thousands of square miles of jungle. Some discoveries are so remote that they require helicopter access, revealing Maya sites in regions where no human has set foot for centuries. Chemical analysis of obsidian artifacts is revealing Maya trade networks that spanned thousands of miles. By identifying the specific volcanic sources where obsidian was quarried, researchers can track ancient trade routes and understand economic relationships between Maya cities and distant regions in Mexico, Honduras, and even Costa Rica. Carbon dating techniques have become so precise that researchers can determine when individual Maya buildings were constructed, occupied, and abandoned. This temporal precision is allowing archaeologists to create detailed timelines of Maya civilization's rise and fall that are accurate to within decades or even years. Bone chemistry shows what foods people ate. Isotope analysis indicates where they were born and lived. And trauma patterns reveal the violence that marked Maya civilization's final centuries. 21st century technology is solving mysteries about Maya civilization that even the Maya themselves might not have understood, revealing secrets preserved in bones, stones, and underwater caves. The survivors carry on ancient traditions. After their great cities fell, did the Maya people themselves disappear? Despite the collapse of Maya civilization around 900 AD, the Maya people never disappeared. Today, over 6 million Maya descendants live across Central America, maintaining cultural traditions that connect them directly to their ancient ancestors. Many continue practicing religious ceremonies in the same caves where their predecessors performed blood rituals over 1,000 years ago. In the mountains of Guatemala, Maya shamans still conduct fire ceremonies using techniques passed down through generations. They burn offerings of copal incense, maize, and cacao in sacred caves, petitioning rain gods using prayers that echo ancient religious texts. The continuity between modern and ancient Maya spiritual practices provides archaeologists with invaluable insights into how their ancestors understood the world. Modern Maya communities maintain detailed oral histories that preserve memories of ancient cities, royal dynasties, and historical events. These stories, told in indigenous Maya languages that are direct descendants of ancient Maya speech, often contain information that helps archaeologists interpret archaeological discoveries. Elderly Maya can sometimes explain the purpose of mysterious artifacts or cultural features that puzzle researchers. The survival of Maya agricultural techniques is particularly remarkable. Modern Maya farmers still use raised field systems, terracing, and water management techniques that are virtually identical to methods employed by their ancient ancestors. These traditional practices are increasingly recognized as sustainable alternatives to industrial agriculture, especially in regions facing climate change and water scarcity. Maya artistic traditions also persist in modern communities. Contemporary Maya weavers create textiles using patterns and symbols that appear in ancient Maya art. Potters continue making vessels using clay preparation and firing techniques that have remained unchanged for centuries. Traditional Maya houses are still constructed using architectural principles and materials that mirror ancient building practices. Perhaps most significantly, many Maya communities maintain spiritual connections to the same sacred sites their ancestors venerated. Modern pilgrims visit ancient temples and caves to conduct ceremonies, ensuring that these archaeological sites remain living religious centers rather than dead museum pieces. The Maya people's survival and cultural continuity proves that while their ancient civilization collapsed, their deeper traditions possessed a resilience that outlasted even their greatest cities. Lessons for a modern world. What warnings does the Maya collapse hold for our modern civilization facing its own climate emergency? The parallels between ancient Maya civilization and today's global society are both inspiring and terrifying. Like the Maya, we're discovering that our technological mastery has limits when confronted with large-scale climate change. The Maya collapse offers both hope and warning for contemporary civilization. On the positive side, the Maya demonstrated that human societies can develop remarkably sophisticated solutions to environmental challenges. Their water management technologies sustained large populations in challenging environments for over 1,000 years. Their agricultural innovations supported population densities that wouldn't be matched in some regions until the 20th century. But the Maya story also reveals how quickly advanced civilizations can collapse when environmental systems fail. Despite their technological sophistication, the Maya couldn't survive a drought that exceeded their infrastructure's capacity. Their social and political systems, which had maintained stability for centuries, disintegrated within a few generations when faced with unprecedented environmental stress. Modern climate scientists warn that contemporary civilization faces environmental challenges that parallel those that destroyed the Maya. Global warming is intensifying drought conditions across many regions. Water scarcity affects billions of people worldwide. Climate refugees are already fleeing environmental disaster zones, just as Maya populations abandoned their cities over 1,000 years ago. The Maya collapse also demonstrates how environmental stress can trigger social and political breakdown that accelerates civilization collapse. As drought stressed Maya society, religious extremism increased, political unity fragmented, and warfare intensified. Modern societies facing climate change show similar patterns of political polarization, resource competition, and social unrest. Perhaps most troubling, the Maya case suggests that technological advancement alone cannot guarantee civilizational survival. The Maya were the most technologically sophisticated society in the ancient Americas, yet they couldn't engineer their way out of environmental collapse when drought exceeded their system's capacity. The Maya collapse serves as both inspirational and warning, showing that human ingenuity can create remarkable civilizations, but also that no society is too advanced to fail when environmental limits are exceeded. The lost world of the ancient Maya was never truly lost. It was simply waiting for the right technology and the right questions to reveal its secrets. Now that those secrets are emerging, they offer both celebration of human achievement and sobering warnings about the limits of that achievement when confronted with forces beyond our control.